What's going on, everyone, and welcome back. It's time for another Donkey Kong video. This is the one I've been wanting to talk about for ages now, assuming the timing. Today we're going to be talking about Donkey Kong Country Returns on Nintendo Wii. This is a game that was a huge part of my childhood and was the game that got me into Donkey Kong. Why this game specifically? Time to find out. Alright, before we talk about the story and stuff, let's talk about how this game, got, started and stuff. Well, after, the rare buyout and Donkey Kong getting spin-off games that I'm sure got the best reputation, yeah, there weren't a lot of stuff going on for DK. It's almost like he hasn't had a new game in ages, which he wasn't dead at that time in the GameCube era of GBA. He still appears in Mario spin-offs and stuff, but the last time at that point, he hasn't gotten the original game. He's getting original games, just not the best way possible, what fans hope for. Until there's one type of dev, and by far one of, if not one of my favorite devs in general, honestly. Say hello to Retro Studios. Retro Studios, who is known for the Metroid Prime series. After Metroid Prime games did pretty well, they discussed of a potential Donkey Kong project. And after a few years of development and after other stuff that's been going on, yeah, the game was born. Welcome to Donkey Kong Country Returns. The title speaks for itself. This is the first Donkey Kong Country game since Donkey Kong Country 3, if we're counting country-specific games. So yeah, it was a massive deal. Even got huge marketing and stuff at the time. It was a big deal. And yeah, this was my first, basically when I grew up with the Wii, this is one of the first video games I've ever played. And yeah, alright, now let's talk about the story, huh? It was a nice peaceful day on DK Isle, until the volcano erupts and spawns enemies known as the Tiki Tak Tribe. Yeah, there's no King K. Rool in this game, anywhere in sight. We got new enemies this time, and it's up to Donkey Kong, and once again, the Tiki Tak Tribe are the ones stealing bananas and also hypnotizing the animals. Yeah, regular animals like elephant, a giraffe, a zebra. Yeah, those animals. And it's up to Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong to stop the Tiki Tak Tribe, since Donkey Kong cannot get hypnotized. Some people may view DK as a straight-up idiot, but he also could be smart. They didn't want to get hypnotized by the Tiki Tak Tribe. So, that depends how you view it. Anyway, so yes, this was basically my first experience into the Donkey Kong series, per se. I played Donkey Kong and liked Mario Kart and Mario Sports and all that, but I never really, played any of the games itself until, like, in the Wii days. Like, I grew up with this game, and when I experienced, like, I played 2D Mario for ages. Like, I played New Super Mario Bros. Wii plenty of times. And then when I wanted to try out Donkey Kong's games, they were not what I was expecting, honestly. These games are... yeah, if you're the guy who's really into 2D Mario games, yeah, be ready for a real treat when you get into the Donkey Kong Country series. They are not easy, honestly. Country Returns specifically is a very difficult game, and to this day, I still have trouble with this game compared to the other country games. I don't know why, probably because I don't replay this game all. Like, going for 100% alone, I say this is one of the harder Donkey Kong Country games. Like, I played through the SNES trilogy plenty of times, even if it's brutal, I know what I'm doing with the game 100%. But when it comes to this game, yeah, it doesn't mess around. There's no, you gotta be aware of certain enemies and stuff. We have new enemy designs too, and I will get to the criticisms later. Let's talk about the positives. So, the way the game looks, yeah, this goes through the classic 2D style we know and love, and basically in a modern take. And I gotta say, Retro Studios perfected the 2D platforming DK, honestly. It just feels so nice to control DK in this, honestly. And overall, yeah, it's fun, and it's it controls very well. Rolling is a thing, DK can blow, I guess, and, get barrels. And you also have Diddy Kong with you in a he mostly rides on DK's back for most of the game. You don't really play as Diddy unless you have a second player you want to play as Diddy. That's the only time you'll ever play as Diddy, really. But he still feels nice to control if you're, like, you know, helping you. If you're about to fall, he has a jetpack for a reason. So, yeah. Overall, and also just the environments of the areas look. And I gotta say, I'm probably gonna be comparing this to New Super Mario Bros. Wii a lot, just a bit of a warning. I technically do not like to compete with DK and Mario personally, because, well, Mario was getting into the era of questionable design change. Well, not designs, but more or less the worlds and stuff being... I don't want to use the term... I hate to use the term generic, but that's just an unfortunate truth. Mario in, like, the 2010s and stuff was getting this New Super Mario Bros. Wii style, which I know this is a common talk when it comes to New Super Mario Bros. Wii. People judge that game rather on the future games rather than the game itself, because the game, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, is still perfectly fine. I personally don't mind playing it. I'd rather play that over New Super Mario Bros. 2, hot take, but yeah. But Donkey Kong Country Returns, basically, Donkey Kong Country Returns... wait, no, that's not how it works. New Super Mario Bros. Wii what? So Donkey Kong Country Returns can run. So yeah, there's just a lot of unique stuff with this game, and, you know, collecting... And what's the objective with this game, really? Well, get all the Kong letters like in the classic games, and there's also new collectibles known as puzzle pieces, which gives you different images of different, like, paint stuff, like cool artwork and concepts, too, in-game, too. Not a lot of games do this often, so it's honestly pretty cool. So yeah, there's just a lot of unique stuff, like grabbing vines and stuff. The rolling feels satisfying. It's just overall, the game itself was always so fun to control. As a kid, it just felt nice. And also, there's the classic minecart levels, which I do love the minecart levels despite them being brutal. If you get hit in the minecart, you're dead. There's no hit points, unlike the original Country games. And there's also new types of vehicle levels called rocket barrels. God, the music in the rocket barrel goes hard. I always love these types of levels. There's always nice to control and take the challenge, and the soundtrack for them goes hard. And I didn't even talk about the soundtrack for this game. The soundtrack, now, I will admit, a lot of the music for this game is remixes based on the original Country game. So the talk of the soundtrack for this game is very minimum, I guess, if that's the right wording, I guess. Because most of them is just remixes, and, you know, the OG Country is gonna overshadow it, kind of. But for what it is, I do like it. There are some original songs I do like, honestly, and yeah, the soundtrack is just so peaceful and memorable for me. And I don't know, I can't call the soundtrack bad per se, but I know longtime fans, I don't know what the general consensus is with the soundtrack really, because a lot of fans, I know, love to listen to that original Country style, but I can't say the Returns way is not too bad, honestly. It's like a lot of songs I do listen to often, especially the boss themes. Let's talk about the bosses! New Super Mario Bros. Wii has Koopalings, right? Well, get ready for Donkey Country Returns. There's so many different things in the Donkey Country Returns boss fights. To, like, the typical first boss, to 3 crabs, you gotta learn the pattern, to riding a minecart area. And yeah, there's like a unique ways of being bosses. And these were always my struggle with this game. I've always had a lot of problems with the Donkey Country Returns bosses, honestly. Like, they were not... Most of them were not easy, honestly, and thankfully, like New Super Mario Bros. Wii, this game does have a super guide if you're struggling, so yeah. And also, getting all the Kong letters opens up temple levels, which you have to do to unlock the secret level after you beat the game, if you want to take on that challenge, of course. So yeah, overall, I talked about a lot of great stuff with this game. I do say the bosses are some of them are fine, some of them are kind of just waiting games, really, so it kind of depends how you feel about the bosses. As a common criticism with Donkey Kong, he either has hit or miss bosses, but for what it is for their first attempt from Retro Studios, I say most of them aren't too bad, honestly. There are some I don't really mind personally. But, of course, I talked about a lot. Alright, so I praised this game a lot. The way the game looks and stuff, the controls, we'll talk about that conversation a little bit. The soundtrack, and of course, yeah. But I will address some criticism. So, I know longtime fans are missing some of the old stuff the Country Games is known for. The weirdest thing with Donkey Kong, he's always having, no matter what game he's in, it's always gonna feel different. Like, that's just how this series has been throughout the years. DK gets a game, and it's always something or I guess some sort of different type of style, whatever it is, and it's always different. That's just kind of how it's been his thing. He's just sort of plays different on like any other, like, you know, Mario based on platforming, Zelda has huge adventures, Pikmin, you know how Pikmin works, Splatoon, but Donkey Kong is just sort of hasn't, you know, he's obviously known for platforming, but he just gets a bunch of different stuff too, which is kind of interesting and weirdly fitting sometimes. So that's just the one thing that's interesting about Donkey Kong. So yeah. But a lot of the classic Donkey Kong stuff, like no critters anywhere, the devs literally said, and yeah, well, I'm not going to get into that conversation because that's going to spawn some really interesting Paper Mario discussions we do not need right now. But yeah, the devs literally said no crocodiles because I guess little kids will get scared of them. Oh, how do we tell them about Mario Super Sluggers? Anyway, but yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't have a problem with the Tikis. I don't think they're that interesting personally. And I don't know, it's just a minor thing, and some of the enemies are fine, just not super memorable since they all are like your typical like animals you could see in the wild kind of thing. So yeah, that's just how it is basically. And of course, motion controls. Yes, that's kind of one of the major problems with this game, and I kind of understand. I don't think I would play this game with motion controls personally. I think I've gotten more used to it now, but yeah, definitely not the best way to play a platformer game is with motion controls where you're shaking the weird mode so you can roll or something, and it doesn't work half the times. But let's be aware, this was released on the Wii, even though it's my favorite Nintendo console. I'm not gonna lie that some motion control minigames, I personally don't have a problem with it, but I can totally see why people would turn this game down because of that, honestly. So yeah, I don't blame anyone really. Anything else I can criticize? I don't know. I don't really got much else to really say, to be honest. Minus the lack of other cons, like other classic characters that we haven't seen in ages. That we haven't, you know, unless this part ages poorly. But yeah, and no other animal buddies other than Rambi. That's kind of sad. I guess we also have Squawks, but we know Squawks for ages. So yeah. So. Yeah, despite the criticisms I have, and is this really the weakest Donkey Kong game, or the least country game, from what I at least see online? Most people have this as their least favorite, and I'm gonna have to admit it is, personally. Now, least favorite, I still give this game a high rating, no doubt. I don't think any Donkey Kong Country game is bad, honestly. All of them are peak in their own ways, but there's always gotta be that one. So, yeah. And also, this game got ported to the 3DS and eventually will be on the Nintendo Switch. It's kind of funny how many times this game actually gets ported compared to most Wii games people are begging for. And if we're also talking about Virtual Console too, it's on the Wii U Virtual Console, and it's also like, there's like another version of it too, so this gets ported so often, it's very funny. Honestly, that just shows the impact on this game. And also the recent Donkey Kong stuff, referencing Returns, you can tell the impact this game has, honestly. And I personally don't have a problem with it. Minus, you know, some stuff, but it's not really a big deal for me. More Donkey Kong, it doesn't matter for me. I just love this game so much. It's just a part of my childhood, and like the reason I got into the franchise and love the character in the first place. So yeah. Alright, I've talked about a lot of things with Donkey Kong Country Returns now. The world structure is great. I do love the unique areas, like, you have your typical jungle style, then the beach, which, granted, I could be I'll copy from Mario, no way, but then you have interesting stuff like the ruins, the mines, the cannon, you have the factory. Yeah, honestly, there's some unique locations, honestly, and I do like that, honestly, for Donkey Kong. Alright, after all that, let's talk about the ending, shall we? After getting enough, or at least getting far enough into the game, you get to the volcano and fight Tiki Tong. This is your typical one floating head, two floating hands battle that you see in video games. So I don't know, he's fine, I guess, but his theme goes hard, so I guess I can't really complain. After doing all that, Donkey Kong straight up punches the moon out of orbit, or Diddy Kong could get hurt in his head if you finish with only Diddy. After all that, they destroy the Tiki Tak tribe, and all the bananas are saved. Overall, yeah, that's Donkey Kong Country Returns. While it is probably my least favorite in the Country series, I don't know if it's my least favorite mainline Donkey Kong game. I don't know. Regardless, Donkey Kong Country Returns is still a game that meant so much to me, and the reason I got into the franchise in the first place, honestly. And I gotta say right now, even if it is my least favorite, this game still at least gets an 8 out of 10, or at least a 9. That's just how much you know how great the Donkey Kong Country series is. And Retro Studios did a fantastic job with this game. And this game is going to get ported again to the Switch, and while I don't know about that price point being $60, yeah, you know I'm going to play that game again because I just love this game so much, honestly. So yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. That's Donkey Kong Country Returns. We only have one more mainline Donkey Kong game left to talk about, and it's the one you see a lot of praise over, and we'll understand the hype for it next time. Next time will be Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. See you guys next time. Later, folks.